Welcome back to Bombastic StarLeague Season 20, again joined by Arzi Tahaki with me in the caster booth. And quick shout out to a little guy named Dragon. You guys might be familiar with him. He just donated 200 euros to go towards the BSL 21 prize pool. Big love to you, my guy, keeping the lights on here at BSL. We'd love to see it.
Yeah, really appreciate that, Dragon. I'm kind of new to the BSL scene, so if we can actually get things or keep things going, I'd be super happy about it because I have every intention of trying to participate next season, and I'm enjoying having foreign StarCraft tournaments and stuff to be a part of.
Yeah, honestly, like we might be in like a golden age of StarCraft. There's so much information available to these guys. You see here some statistics. Hawk and Bonith, just such absolute monstrous players. Bonith definitely a favorite, but Hawk, very cerebral Zerg, definitely understands what needs to be done, understands the late game power potential of Zerg. If he can get there and execute appropriately, just doesn't always have the speed necessary to keep up with some of these guys. And I imagine Bonith's Reaver style will give him a bit of a headache.
Yeah, for sure. I've watched some games between these guys a little bit before, and that's exactly it. Hawk was having a pretty hard time for Bonith, kind of mid-late game pressure with the Reavers and stuff. Bonith, he's always so good with Reavers. That's kind of his what would you say, his like representative unit. I can't think of the word right now, but
his forte.
Yeah, when I think of Bonith, I think of Reavers. Like his unit control is so good. He knows so many little tricks and things about the Reavers, and he just gets so much value out of them all the time.
Yeah, he's like the foreign Snow, right, in terms of his affinity for that particular unit. We're getting a quick confirmation. Both players are ready, guys, so we might be jumping straight into our first map of the series. It's going to be Radon between Hawk and Bonith. Let's get it started. Spawning here in the bottom right as the blue Protoss is Bonith.
And his opponent cross spawn on Radon, we have the Professor Hawk.
Yeah, I like that nickname, the Professor. Definitely filling those boots quite well, I would say. He's definitely got a lot to say about his race and what should be done. Not all the time. I actually don't agree with everything he says. I've had a few disagreements with him, but I would say about 90% of what he says I can agree with.
Yeah, I'm not quite that high with Hawk, but I respect his opinions.
I was being generous, okay. Go on.
Yeah, there's we have a term, we call them Hawk takes, right? It's when Hawk says something that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but he says everybody should do it, and then he never does it himself either. So
it's true. He is one of those guys. I've done it myself sometimes. I've had some really terrible takes, especially when I was inebriated by a substance. Luckily, I'm more of a teetotal sober kind of guy now, so my takes are nowhere near as wacky as they used to be. So I can kind of empathize a little bit with Hawk and his slightly wacky takes, but yeah, one time in 5 or something, he's got some pretty bizarre stuff to say.
Yeah, so I have been a part of Hawk's kind of practice. I've been watching him practice quite a bit and been in calls with him and stuff, so he's probably going to play Overpool every game, so I imagine our openings is going to be Overpool and Gate Expand pretty much every game. I expect this completely.
It should be. There's no reason not to Overpool, especially if it's just overall the best build, in my opinion. You obviously can go for a little bit of a greedier, 11 hatch and what have you. The problem is, especially against the meta of the gateway first, if you lose one single drone, it's just not as good as Overpool. If you lose one drone, you would have been better off going for that Overpool opening. And it just makes the game a little bit simpler in terms of optimizing your timings and dealing with this initial Zealot pressure and what have you. It is cross-map Radiant, so there's a 38 rush distance ramp to ramp in terms of worker speed. Obviously, Zerglings are a little bit faster than workers, but still a very long rush distance for Bonith to get in here with this Zealot anyway.
Yeah, Hawk actually did a little bit something interesting with his drone there. The one that was going to build the natural hatchery, he actually went out towards the middle of the map, kind of went out past the opening there a little bit before coming back to make that hatchery. So he was looking for potentially the probe movement or something a little bit early.
Right. And he might actually catch this probe. Ooh, can he react to it in time? Like we were saying, Hawk not always the fastest of players, but definitely a cerebral Zerg. Knows pretty much what he should do. It's just a matter of making that happen. not quite getting the body block on this Zerg, and it's kind of hard, right? Like, you can put all of your attention to detail on stopping this probe getting past, but maybe you're a little bit slow with your drone production or something. So you have to really be an adept Zerg and high task switching to hit your build order perfectly while denying a probe getting into your base with just 2 slowlings.
Yeah, that's something about Hawk that's pretty interesting. Like you said, he's not really the fastest player, right? Oh my God.
Can we just pause the cast
Yeah.
for a second? Because we see our VT, Terran player, just did a massive donation, 2,000 euros. Long live BSL. Wow. I mean, not to overshadow Dragon by any stretch of the imagination, but really impressive donation and very big thank you to you. That's going to really help. Even Chao Zhu coming in with a 20. Keep it coming, guys. We need your love.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take credit for that one real quick. He did this clearly because clearly because he wants to see me in the next BSL, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're funny guy, Ozzy. Yeah, thank you for increasing the... I mean, I'm also JD Conan. He's looking to win that next BSL too, right? So he's happy about the prize pool, for sure, for sure. And a quick 973 from Hawk here, but he does manage to stop that probe slipping by. It's so important to deny this scout. Even just not showing how many drones are mining minerals is a big deal.
Yeah, great job from Hawk so far. But yeah, you see a little bit of there, the speed that you were talking about. And what I was going to say, right? So an interesting thing about Hawk is he's not really that fast, but his micro is really, really good, right? Yeah. So he's like a slower player with pretty sick micro.
No, you're absolutely right. I actually heard about there's a micro map that's a really tough micro map, and he actually is one of the best at that micro map, especially on the Zerg levels. It's almost like he has an intuition of what needs to be done, and if he doesn't have to macro while doing it, he's certainly capable of executing some pretty high finesse micro situations. It's just a matter of macroing behind that micro. So he has to be good at when he times his macro cycles, you know, make a round of units and then start microing. Then he can really be a dominating player. He just needs to be in the driver's seat and control when those macro cycles are occurring. Pretty good surround on the Zealot. Doesn't quite find it easily. Bonith trying to keep the Zealot alive as long as possible, but that was a nice pickup from Hawk getting that Zealot. Now there's no 5 Zealot move out timing to worry about.
Yeah, this has actually been pretty nice opening so far from Hawk. And I wanted to go back to one thing. I didn't quite finish the thought. It kind of occurred to me what this drone movement that he did is because if he gets first scouted, he wanted to know if he can make his hatchery at the natural or the third, right? So that's why he sent this drone out there. So it actually makes a lot of sense. He's trying to avoid getting his hatchery delayed.
Yeah, I mean, the second cannon has to be started now by Bonith before he even thinks about moving out of these Zealots, but he won't even get a chance to do that because in a minute he's going to realize that there's Hydras at his door, and he went for a core in the wall, so it's not the worst case scenario. Losing the core, though, does feel a bit bad, but it at least won't disrupt his upgrade timings critically. Yeah,
Hawk is going to be able to break this wall down, so that'll be pretty nice for him. Like I said, though, not making that forge in the wall is actually really, really nice for Bonith to not get that +1 delayed. Losing the core's a little bit annoying. It costs 200 instead of 150, but he's already got the tech that he needs from it right now. He's got a Citadel, he's got a Starport.
He doesn't need to make a Singularity Charge upgrade to get the Dragoon range or anything just yet. He can replace that later on. So, all things considered, not the worst case scenario here from Bonith for sacrificing this wall, making some safety cannons in the back line, just in case this was a full-on committal. He's seeing now the macro hatchery being laid, but there's a few additional Hydras making their way to the front. Hawk is trying to keep Bonith very honest right now and is showing him a lot of Hydras to keep throwing down cannons.
Yeah, basically Bonith is going to keep making cannons as long as he's seeing Hydras coming out until he gets his swarm out. He's got his extra gateways and stuff coming up behind this, so he's going to have decent production as well, and he can just kind of overwhelm this with enough Zealots if they don't continue making Hydras. And there he's going to see the drones pop, so he knows the pressure is done, so we might see him even cancel this cannon because he's already got 6 here.
He could, yeah. He might want to be safe of how many Hydras he's seen. It depends on how confident he's feeling on the day and what Zerg you're up against, how aggressive they are and what have you. But I mean, the traditional storm timing is 8 minutes 30. It depends on the teched out play. If you're doing something like a mini build where you're getting, faster Citadel and what have you, sometimes you have that storm even at like 8 minutes flat. So it really depends on what build order you're opening with, but the traditional timing is about 8 minutes 30. So you're kind of just threatening the Protoss into throwing down as many cannons as possible until that threshold has been met and you've got that first 2 Psionic Storms available. Seems like pretty balanced from both sides. A lot of Hydras are made, but a lot of cannons too. I think this is going to be a fairly even game.
Yeah, Hawk just going to play a lot of drones behind this, try and catch back up, but I mean, killing the wall, not making too many Hydras. He did trade his Lings out for like a Zealot and some decent damage,
Right.
so it's not terrible for Hawk, but might have liked a little bit more damage than that. Wasn't able to make him make any extra cannons beyond the initial ones. Didn't kill any or anything like that, so. But yeah, he's gonna drone. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, this is the complaint of a lot of Protoss players, that 973 kind of affords you that like potential of getting a lead, but even if you don't get the lead, you're still in an okay position, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something. I mean, we've all pretty much complained about it. Any Protoss players, we've all complained about it because it's like 973. It's one of those builds where it's like you can end the game or you can just macro if you can't end the game. Like,
yeah, it is what it is. The mid game is where you can shine as Protoss, and we're about to enter that now. Bonith with his leg enhancements already putting on the pressure to the third base. There is a good Sim City there with a safety sunken though. Hawk will have to commit some Hydras back here to defend against this. Always going for a tactical snipe on that Evolution Chamber. Does do a good drone drill to prevent that though, and the Hydras coming in to prevent that as well. Nice reaction from Hawk. That would have been a nice snipe killing that Evo Chamber, but it didn't pay off.
It's actually a nice reaction from both players. Hawk reacted very quickly to get that drill, and Bonith immediately identified that his Zealots could not stay there a second longer. So very good of Bonith to kind of recognize that his Zealots were in a lot of danger and react immediately.
Oh, absolutely. I'm liking this from both sides. That's why I was thinking we're going to have a nice even game here as well in general. Both players seem to be firing on all cylinders and playing an A game here, and neither one really getting ahead of the other just yet in this game. Powering up onto 8 gateways worth of production doesn't necessarily mean a 2-base all-in timing. Is very common in the meta to just go 8 gateways regardless and then get your third base as a bit of a belated thought. Trying to put in some pressure again. He sees the Hydras out of position. They're not in the Sim City correctly. Can definitely get a few punishes on that, but good luck at egg morphing from Hawk, trying to mitigate total disaster here. And we'll catch a few of those Zealots on the exit. I mean, this is really going back and forth. Like, there's no clear lead for either side right now. I'm really liking the positional play from both sides.
I really like this response from Hawk. He basically lost what, like 2 or 3 Hydras. He did it, and morphing is in a lurker. It's not like he's like spending resources he wouldn't be spending anyway. This is completely fine for him to do. So it was what looked like it could have been a really bad situation being completely fine, and maybe even favorable because we got so much damage on these Zealots.
Yeah, I like this idea from Hawk as well, to put like 1 or 2 lurkers out in front just to kind of like get a bit of extra chip damage on these Zealots, so when they do come into a committed attack, they've already had some shields shaved off and what have you, and they're all softened up for the next line of defense. I think it's very interesting how he's approaching this, although there is a pretty significant contingency of Protoss infantry trying to shut down this 4th base timing. There's no observer here just yet. A little bit overstaying his welcome, taking those subterranean spines to the face. Hawk should have enough to bully back this Protoss army and secure this 4th.
Yeah, this is such a cool move from Hawk because he's taking position because he knows there's no observers out yet. And he's like using that knowledge to push his lurkers out further than you would normally. And it's like, from Bonith's perspective, it's like, I should have control of this space. You can't be out here this far, but because the lurkers are out here, you actually can't do anything about it.
No, absolutely. I love this cerebral play from Hawk. He definitely understands the position and takes advantage of it. Bonith in a little bit of trouble, will now wait for a much larger round of Dragoons to finish up now with a Observer support. Although if Hawk snipes this Observer, this attack might be just dead in the water. He can still utilize Storms to help break through these Lurker lines. Here comes 1 Sonic Storm on that train of Hydras from the 4th base. Bonith really desperate to get something done here and shut down this macro potential play from Hawk and get into this 4th base right here, right now. If he can get onto the high ground, that's going to be a really big deal. He's already starting to break through these Lurker lines. He's protecting that Observer well. And really great skirmishes here from Bonith overall, though he looks hesitant to pull the kill move on that 4th hatchery, knowing that he could get his army completely trapped there.
Yeah, it's so interesting what we just watched there, because Bonith could have gone up that ramp and killed it, but he was worried about, when he didn't see Hawk's army for a while, he thought he was worried about getting fully surrounded, right, and just getting swallowed, which is exactly what Hawk was doing. He was trying to get in a position for exactly this. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of Dragoons to bully this back. I like the idea from Hawk, but the macro of Bonith just a little bit too strong. Should be able to keep this force at bay and not lose too much of the head of his snake right now and just keep macroing out rounds of units. A lot of Protoss versus Zerg is just skirmishing with the Zerg and reinforcing the death ball over and over again. As long as you can actually lose the death ball, you can still find a pretty confident, commanding position. He's utilizing this little high ground next to his Dragoons here to help funnel those Hydras in if they do attack, biding his time for an opportune moment to strike this fourth base. Hawk could just sacrifice this fourth hatchery and go for a massive counterattack. Looks like he's kind of like hooing and hawing a little bit, not quite confident about pulling. Now he goes for it. He's like hesitating a little bit. He's saying, do I want to surround this army and pin it down or go for a counterattack? Looks like he's picking the former and wants to just try and get this army while it's out of position. Did lose the fourth hatchery, but if he kills all of this army now efficiently, that's a pretty good trade for Hawk. He can manage it.
Yeah. So far, I mean, there's no more Templar left, so these Hydras can start fighting really, really well now. The Archon's going down immediately, and there's nothing but Goons going to be left behind us. Hydras do really well against Goons if the numbers are like relatively even, but there's a lot of Goons left over. The reinforcing Hydra's going to come in and start cleaning this up.
Yeah. I mean, this is pretty good for Hawk. Although we are 3 base versus 3 base still.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is only good if we stop the Protoss play ever expanding from this point onwards, which is a bit of a tall order when you don't have a 4th base with a few extra drones mining to really squeeze out a crazy amount of units. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Hawk, I don't think it's a good idea necessarily. I mean, and Hawk's not the kind of guy to do it, but maybe like a Mutalisk switch would have been a nice idea to like suddenly get like 10 Mutas out, snipe all the High Templars, and then just cripple the splash damage of Bonith. It seems like he's predominantly also investing into Zealots, so I think a Muta switch would have been a great play. I just don't think that's Hawk's specialty.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like Bonith kind of has this read because he did no Corsair, no Dark Archon, and has not been scouting, right? To confirm with fire anything. So yeah, unfortunately for Hawk, he with that fight, because he lost that 4th, he needed to crush the army, and kind of barely winning the fight's not good enough for him.
Tipped 15
yeah. I mean, this is a little bit rough. I mean, unfortunately, Hawk's limited range of special play not quite meeting the standard of Bonith, and Bonith, a little bit of metagaming going on now. He knows there's not so much of a likelihood of Mutalisks being utilized and shutting down his High Templars. I mean, look how unguarded these High Templars are. Can you imagine just like 10 Mutas like swooping in and gobbling those up? It'd be easy pickings for Hawk. He's just not that kind of guy.
There's literally one Goon protecting this army from error, like...
It's kind of crazy, right? He's going to try and get a wedge in and snipe these High Templars with Hydras on the ground. Ooh, runs through the storm a little bit on the exit. Needs to be careful. I like the ideas from Hawk, but I do feel like his style is being railroaded right now and kind of playing into Bonith's hands a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be trying to trade off and maybe kind of go for like a little bit of a contain here, but the supply is going to be a little bit worried for that. And plus, when Protoss is on 3 base and 3 gas, they're not really that scared of a contain anymore because they can make so many Goon Templars.
That's completely correct, Ozzy. And some pretty good Sonic Storms to boot as well for Bonith. Already trading pretty efficiently. Kind of Hawk helping the Protoss skirmish with him at the moment. He needs to get some snipes on these High Templars, but it's so hard to do in this choke point, this little kill box by Bonith. He can just storm you into oblivion as soon as you make an attempt at poking forward here. Hawk's going to try and catch him off guard a few times, but seems like kind of like hesitating to even be confident enough to go for those snipes. And now look at this triple robo Reavers. Oh geez, it's gonna escalate in a big way now. He's gonna break the contain by getting some siege units out and outranging these lurkers pretty efficiently and force Hawk to either react to this and kind of go for a big dive-in attack, which could just get absolutely eviscerated by Storm, or just completely evacuate. Either way, Bonith is happy.
Yeah, this is looking pretty bad for Hawk. The supply for Bonith is already scary. Now that you got these Reavers being mixed in, it's even worse. And it's just lair tech right for Hawk. He did get pretty good upgrades pretty quick, but a big fight going to be breaking out here. He's going to jump forward, jump on top of one of those Reavers and kill it, but Storm's going to be raining down on top of these bunch lurkers. And ooh, this is brutal.
This is really brutal. It's hard to watch as a Zerg, but I mean, I'm kind of rooting for Bonith as well. Like, he's got such a great read on Hawk and what he needs to do to metagame him. And unfortunately, that's the hard thing about StarCraft. Sometimes if you get a good read on your opponent, you know, styles clash a lot. And just because you're a good player doesn't mean your style meshes well against certain players. And if you're not a really well-rounded player that can do a wide range of variable play, unfortunately, you will get metagamed into oblivion. And we are seeing a little bit of that here today. Bonith has got Hawk's number and he's just redialing.
Yeah, I like the patience from Bonith as well. He took a really good fight there and he didn't feel the need to overextend, but Hawk's going to try and pounce on top of this, catching him a little bit off guard actually.
Gets the Reaver, now starting to target by some of these Dragoons down. There is one High Templar supporting from the right. Does get a pretty okay Storm. Not quite the best of trades here for Hawk, unfortunately, though. Definitely feeling the pressure and making this happen. Wasn't the worst move or idea there. Did do some good target firing initially. It's just so hard to dive deep against the Reavers in the line of Protoss. And unfortunately, as long as Bonith macros and controls his units reasonably well, it's really difficult for Hawk to actually engage against this army composition. He's not even saturated his 4th base, I'd like to point out. This is non-stop unit production because he knows if he allows Bonith to get a 4th base, this game is pretty much over.
Yeah, I think he was just trying his hardest to hold him on these 3 bases. He knew the 2 bases were mining up. He's about to be on 1 base eco. So I think he was just full committing to the units to try and continue him as long as possible. But Bonith is going to break out, like you said, and he's going to be able to start working towards that 4th. And there's no hive tech or anything like that for Hawk behind us. So he's kind of all in on this Hydra Lurker against... It's Reaver Storm. Like, it's the last thing you want to be fighting with Hydra Lurker.
Yeah, there's even like a pair of Scourge here trying to catch this shuttle out of position, or a few observers. There's actually 3 observers in total, so it's going to be very hard to take away all of the vision available to Bonith to slow down his attack. Counterattack is underway towards a non-existent 4th base right now, so Hawk accidentally going to be sacrificing his 4th for free without any compensation in the way of sniping a 4th base. Bonith kind of metagaming him yet again, knowing that Hawk would want to go for a counterattack here. Might go for a potential dive in onto the natural. There's just a few High Templars here. As long as he storm dodges against this. Oh, that's still some pretty good damage with the storms, though. Didn't totally avoid that. And now this army completely boxed in. I have to imagine Hawk might be tapping out soon at this rate, Ozzy.
It's very rare that you see naked Templar get storms that good, but the positioning for those storms from Bonith is really, really strong. And yeah, this army is going to get cleaned up. Hawk supply is dipping down. He's going to try and bring in some reinforcements behind this and try to keep fighting this. But it's hard to imagine him taking it from here.
Yeah, I mean, technically he can if he somehow reestablishes a contain, denies this 4th ever going up. There's hope, but the problem is the Zerg will now start to be mined out. So it's no longer 3 bases versus 1 base. It'll be 2 bases versus 1 base, and then 1 base versus 1 base, because the natural is also pretty heavily saturated for Hawk. You can see there just a few hundred minerals left remaining, so maybe 3 or 4 minutes left on that to try and get the job done. He's making a pretty good trade, trying to target those Reavers down. Not enough Hydra targeting that, though. Observers have gone down. Actually, there's 2 observers to the left. Yeah, so I mean, honestly, this is going really well for Bonith. There is not much hope left in the army of Hawk in being able to deal with Bonith for much longer. He's not even tried to take a 4th base yet, but honestly, he doesn't necessarily need to. Like, he is checkmating Hawk with even out taking this 4th base until just now at 21 minutes.
Yeah, so annoying. Hawk can even get this 4th reestablished again. I liked the idea with the Scourge. He knew that he was behind. He had to go for kind of a catch-up play, right? A bit of a Hail Mary, helping him maybe catch the shuttle with the Reavers in it so he could fight better, but wasn't able to find that earlier, and now I think Bonith's going to move up here, keep denying this 4th, and Hawk's pretty much starved out at this point. And yeah, GG.
Yeah, GG is cool, and Bonith, pretty convincing. Game number 1 in the series. I mean, that looks so crazily one-sided, and just such a strong understanding from Bonith in how to not only play out the PvZ matchup, but specifically against Hawk and what Hawk's like forte is and how to circumnavigate the strengths of that, you know, Professor Zerg. And it does seem like Bonith is just completely outplaying him, at least thus far.
Yeah, it's pretty nice for Bonith to be able to just completely ignore the possibility of mutas, right? To not go Corsair, to not worry about your Dark Archon or anything like that. Just be able to walk around with your High Templar with basically no protection from air and get away with that. So Yeah, a little bit of metagaming there from Bonith, knowing his opponent and taking advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, Hawk's been playing StarCraft for a long time, but he's one of those professor-aged players. He's a little bit younger than me, but we don't necessarily have the same kind of speed as we once did. And just because you know what to do doesn't mean you can actually execute it, right? I think that's the most heartbreaking thing about StarCraft is when your brain is telling you what to do, but your hands cannot keep up with the instructions.
Yeah, I don't know if you watch my streams, but that's pretty much what I'm complaining about the entire time. My entire stream is me being like, I know what to do, but I'm not good enough to do it, and it's pissing me off.
Yeah, unfortunately, StarCraft reveals the darkest things about ourselves and our shortcomings and inadequacies and what have you, and that's why it's such a good game, because basically teaches you about life and things about yourself that you didn't even know, and why we probably come to love this game so much over the years. Next map's going to be Eclipse, which is Bonith pick, and not surprising, it's a 1v1 map, which makes scouting a lot more simpler for Protoss players, and the gateway expand much more formidable in those positions.
Yeah, I like it for the scouting as well. That being said, I don't know if there's any point in scouting Hawk. You already know what he's going to do, but we'll see if he wants to mix it up. He does have it, for his unusual things that people don't know about him. He does say that he likes to cheese. I personally have never seen it before, but I'm going to take his word for it.
He's lying to you guys. Don't believe anything he says to you. He likes to go to 9-10 hatchery late game production. Okay, that's what he likes to do. I think both players are ready though, Mr. Dahaki, so we're jumping into game number 2 on Eclipse. Let's get it started. Spawning here in the top right, needs to redeem himself, currently 1-0 down. It's Hawk from America.
Opponent spawning in the bottom left, we have the Polish Protoss King, Bonith.
I mean, this guy is just the ultimate Chad meme personified, like hardly puts in practice and still comes home from driving his Bugatti and somehow able smashing face against the best of the best in the foreigner scene. I mean, what more can you say?
That's pretty much it, right? I asked him after his games with DeWalt, too. I was like, did you secretly practice? Like, I told everybody you weren't practicing, and you absolutely crushed DeWalt. And he messaged me. He was like, nope, I didn't practice at all. This is foreign StarCraft.
He's styling on these guys, man. He's basically Neo of the StarCraft scene. He's kind of dialed in to the Matrix, sees the game code, and some of these other guys not quite able to keep up with his thought processes and his task switching ability, his micro ability in general. His overall control is just so formidable.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Bonith's micro is it's not just the finesse that he handles his units with. It's that he understands on such a deep level and how the micro functions and what exactly you're looking for and trying to get your units to do.
Yeah, it's not just the individual micro abilities, it's the overall control mindset of I understand what to do in this current position and how best to go about it. And it's kind of nuts, honestly, because you think the biggest thing between these high level players is the reaction time, how long it takes for them to look at the things on the screen and say, right, based on what I see on the screen, this is what I need to do. And Bonith just has such a low latency in identifying that and reacting accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we see, this is what I was talking about earlier with Hawk. So he's going to just go ahead and take this as his third base, not bother dealing with the denial, right? Which can be super annoying, especially when you're playing against Gate Expand to get that delayed at all.
Yeah. You very commonly hide this second Overlord that's been made as well to force them to scout into the main base to check for a 9-port. If you do want a ninja or a drone to take the natural, but it's very common just to say, screw it, I'm going to take in my third base and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Well, these drones were getting low. We had one drone that was one tap away from dead at one point.
He's definitely
his
trying
control is so good.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to style on Hawk a little bit and show just how strong that prowess is in his affinity to micro his units, also while macroing back at home. But one of the things I like about Bonith is he's not afraid just to make probes but not send them to mine. And sometimes you'll see 3, 4, 5 probes at each of his nexi, but honestly that's the way you want to play. In the late game of StarCraft, it's okay if you're not mining right away with the workers, as long as you're not wasting the production time in making them.
Yeah, well, I've even heard the pros talk about it quite often, where it's if you're floating a bunch of macro, your macro or a bunch of money in your macro is slipping. That's so much less important than controlling your units well, right? And we've seen it with Bonith in his games against Dewalt happen a couple of times where he's going up 1,1800 minerals because the fight itself, the unit control, the unit value is actually much more important to these players than the macro.
Yeah, and potentially this probe getting in, although the second double pair of links trying to deny that. Ooh, almost catching that probe. I think he might just barely catch it before it confirms the tech in the main base. Doesn't know if that's a lair or a den play. Around 3 minutes 30 is when they would throw down a den for a 973. So now he doesn't know for sure. Is this going to be a den? Is it going to be a 3-base spire? You don't quite know for sure as Bonith. So he's in a little bit of dark, and he might try and sacrifice a Zealot later on to confirm this.
Yeah, that was a really nice denial from Hawk, and I think we're going to see that Hydra Den coming down for Hawk again. Oh, no, okay. Well, no, I'm just completely wrong.
Toss the curse right off the bat.
The reason I thought that was because when I talked to Hawk about it before, and I asked him, I was like, who would you rather play against, Bonith or Dewalt? And he said that they're both hard for different reasons. And his reasoning was that Dewalt's like mid-game timing and mid-game execution is too strong for him to handle, whereas with Bonith, he wants to avoid the late game as much as possible. He wants to stay away from these like late game Reaver value fights and that kind of thing, and he wants to pressure a lot more with Hydra.
I could definitely see that. It makes total sense to me, RZ. I think you were talking a little bit last week about the practice games between them not going so well for Hawk as well when it came to that late game stage, purely because of that extra finesse that Bonith can bring to the table.
Yeah, it's just, it's so hard to outvalue Bonith, almost borderline impossible, right? Like, anytime I've played against him, like, obviously there's a huge skill gap between us, but anytime I play against him, it's like every time I try to take a fight with him that I win against, you know, my fellow low A rankers or something, I take it against him and I just feel like an idiot. It's like when you're trying to wrestle your dad when you're 6 years old. Like, you feel dumb for even trying.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. It's a shame that he didn't block that probe scout with the drone. It was so low. Does eventually clear that up, but now Bonith does know that was a pretty fast lair build. No craziness coming his way, especially no 3 or 4 hatch Hydra gonna be breaking down his door. And now the Dragoon getting some value actually will catch this Overlord, and usually you don't want to make this Dragoon unless you can guarantee killing an Overlord with it, and he does get that. So a nice little win here for Bonith going forward. A bit of a technical early game play. Losing that first Overlord is so problematic. If it was something like a Hydra bust, you now have no detection for, say, the Dark Templar defense or anything like that. So it's a nice win for you if you can snipe that first Overlord.
Yeah, definitely super annoying. It just delays the drone count as well, right? So a little bit of a pain to deal with. We do see that Hydra Den coming down right behind the Spire. We're just staying on that one gas. So we're just going to get, or I guess we're on 2 gas, but we're going to get, a couple Sarah. We might go up to 5 meter, I guess, but this is mostly for anti for Sarah at this point.
Yeah, it'll make 2 pairs of Scourge here and probably go into 6 hatch Hydra, I would imagine. We'll have to wait and see confirmation of that. Although there's no hatchery going down just yet. Is he going straight up mutas? He hasn't thrown down a 5th hatchery. I mean, he might just be going mass mutas here. Yeah, and he's trying to, he's taking the gas at the 3rd base rather than the natural. So the Corsair sees no gas at the actual natural and might not necessarily be too suspicious of this just yet.
Well, you even heard me, right? As the observer, I was like, oh, this is just going to be Sarah, not Muta. And then I was looking at it, I was like, actually, is this going to be Muta? I can't even tell anymore. So yeah, I guess we're going to answer now. Yeah,
I mean, no 3rd gas yet, so this isn't like total crazy Ogre gamer all-in, but he is doing a very aggressive style. There's only 4 drones mining at the 3rd. He's transitioning with a macro hatchery. Right? There's no cannons in the main base. So Bonith doesn't know about this. He's definitely fooled Bonith with this. Like, Bonith is not prepared for this at all. He could just get a straight-up win here, potentially, with good execution.
Yeah, we got 6 Muta, 4 Scourge versus 4 Sarah right now. This is really hard for Bonith to handle. We have no cannon here, so this could get a lot of damage.
Oh, you need at least 2 cannons finished up to be safe against this right now. He has not even a single cannon, so a little bit of a rough spot to be in. Has that 1 Dragoon to soak up some damage. Doesn't quite find the connections initially, but does clear up one Corsair with the Periscope. Now goes to town on those Corsairs. It only takes 5 mutas to beat 2 Corsairs, so with 6 or 7, you're easily going to be bullying those back. Now we can camp this Stargate critically. There's no cannon to protect that Stargate. You might even need to make an Archon in the natural or something, which is going to be hard to achieve. Has to make one High Templar at a time with that gateway. Not really an easy answer to this aggression from Bonith. He's going to attempt a Zealot run by and try and get some compensation that way. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we have very little here to fight this off, so the Zealots won't actually get a lot of value. He does catch that Corsair as soon as it comes out. With the drone kill, though, and the extra lings coming out, we might be able to hold it well enough. We're getting enough damage at home on this Protoss player that we actually, I don't know, actually the Zealots are getting a lot done.
Yeah, it's not so good, RZ. Not quite as good as you thought. I mean, it was initially pretty good, but unfortunately, there's a little bit too much DPS in that side blaze, and the second Sunken a bit too slow. There are some Zerglings trickling in from that third base. Sunken's on the way, but as soon as these Zealots start chomping away at that, it's not going to be long for this world. He's going to have to try and clean these Zealots up with some mutas that are coming out, but he might lose a couple of drones in the main base unless he gets rid. Oh, look at that great target firing here from Bonith. Not even going to try and go. Oh, actually, he does go after the drones. I'm surprised by that. I thought he was going to just kill the Spire. Instead, tries to get a few of those drone kills. I actually liked his idea just to kill the Spire here. I don't think the drones was the correct move.
Yeah, I think he decided that he wasn't going to be able to kill the Spire. I think he just wasn't confident at that point.
I think he could, though. I think he could have killed it. Just barely.
Yeah, it would have been really close. But I think you're right. There's a lot of Zealots left over. They were a little bit soft. Yeah, he just lost confidence, I guess. But this is still, I feel like, pretty good for Bonith. We got a lot of the drones, and now our cannons are up. We got extra goons here. We got a bunch of Sair. And it's going to be hard to play here from Hawk. He's going to have to go back into droning, and he's also going to need to make Hydras potentially here soon.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically stabilized with this aggression. It's not like Hawk can't win the game, but honestly, that was a lot of counter damage done by Bonith. He's really established himself. His cannons in the mineral lines, there's now a Corsair fleet, Storm is done. It's no longer as scary a position. He could still get some snipes on these pros, maybe even force out a Storm or two. It's very hard to execute this micro. Killer's very good at it in terms of like zoning out the Corsairs with the Scourge while the Mutas harass the probe line. It requires such high level micro that Hawk probably will just decide against it because there's no way he can macro and execute that at the same time. It's just too challenging.
Yeah, it's very hard, but it feels bad for Hawk at the same time too, right? We got all these mutas, which aren't going to have a whole lot of value later because the Corsair count's already so high, so it's like he feels kind of pressured to get something done with them, but Bonith's setup is so good against these mutas.
Yeah, it's rough. It's really rough. A big missed opportunity here for Hawk. If he just defended that attack a little bit more cleanly, he would have had so much damage done to Bonith, and he could have shut out him mining in his main base for quite some time. DT does slip through into the natural, deny some mining here. Has to pull back the mutas to clean this up, so a lot of lost mining time for Hawk now too.
Almost gets a second drone even.
Kind of crazy that Bonith has navigated an almost game-winning position for Hawk into this, right?
Yeah, like so suddenly too, right? Like I was looking at it, and it was like Hawk totally caught him off guard with this, and looked like Bonith was pretty much dead, but this counterattack got a lot done. But the thing that's impressive to me is Bonith never stopped microing his Zealots, but he got his setup done at home so fast behind that pressure.
Exactly. Yeah, the fact that he identified, okay, this is only good if I'm safe from any follow-up. So you need to get these two cannons down in the main, safety cannon in the natural, replenish the Corsair fleet, get my High Templars out, and then the Zealot counterattack is totally worth it. Definitely achieved what it was set out to do. Not only disrupting the economy of Hawk, but also stabilizing his own infrastructure, and now can really put the pressure on Hawk with the Zealot Sair timing.
Yeah, this is scary. There's a lot of Sair here too. We got Storms behind us as well, coming in from behind. So
he can actually storm the Scourge if he wanted to. It's definitely a viable play. There it is.
Yeah, we see exactly that. So all the Scourge go down, no connections done. These mutas are completely forfeit now to these Corsair. There's nothing to protect them anymore. And oh my god, they just get murdered.
I mean, there's like one Sunken here and a few Hydras, and you do not want to be microing in your Sim City against Storm at your door. You're going to see why in a few seconds. There's already those Hydras forced into the mineral, and there's the double dip Storm monster splash damage, killing both units and drones alike. Corsairs reigning supreme in the skies with their neutron flares. Hawk in complete disarray, half the supply of Bonith right now. What a crazy, convincing turnaround by a Polish Protoss who seems to just understand what needs to be done at every junction of any game you throw his way. Whatever curveball you give this guy, he's knocking it out the park for a home run.
yeah, he navigated that situation pretty much perfect. To be completely caught off guard by what Hawk was doing and being in such a bad position to completely flip it on its head that fast, right? Where Hawk is the one defending and suddenly Hawk's like way behind when we thought Bonith might be dead just a couple minutes prior.
I think StarCraft is one of the best personifications of attack is the best form of defense. There's so many times where that's the case. And look at this, now supply blocking Hawk by taking out the Overlords. There's now also not any detection at that third base. Could go for a DT play there as a threat. Hawk's in so much trouble trying to utilize SimCity, but he can't focus on killing the Corsairs and the Zealots on the ground. He supply blocks, cannot replenish his own forces on the ground to fight against. There's a real solid checkmate move here from Bonith. Whatever Hawk does in reaction to this is not the right answer to get the job done, and that's perfect game theory from Bonith, forcing your opponent to make more and more mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Hawks is falling further and further behind. Bonith now doubling his supply, right? And just continuing to lean on Hawk and not let him breathe at all. I mean, this natural's pretty much been gutted. A couple Zealots in here, gonna try to kill the layer with it, it looks like, but not quite gonna get it done.
This is just crazy, man. I'm so impressed with Bonith in general. It's madness that this guy practices as little as he does and plays as good as this. Can you imagine if, like, in a parallel universe where Bonith actually cared about practicing more? Like, he could actually be an ASL contender.
Oh, absolutely. I thought this a long time ago as well. It's a shame to have so much talent and let it go to waste, you know?
Yeah, that's for sure. I've actually got a team jersey with wasted potential on it, and I certainly think that sums up Bonith, because one of the most craziest talents we've had in the StarCraft foreigner scene for such a long time, and always just seems chill enough to, you know, just coast by and, you know, stomp face in that foreigner scene and never really quite push himself against the Korean scene, but still finding a lot of success here, especially today against Hawk. This looks like it's a quick 2-0 victory, and there's the GG from Hawk. I mean, we're already on match point this early. I thought this series was going to be more drawn out. We're going to be seeing more late game Reaver shenanigans from Bonith, but the reverse is happening. It seems like he's really got the early and mid game nailed down, and Hawk has no answers.
Yeah, it seems like Hawk's the one trying to put this early game pressure on to kind of avoid the late game with Bonith, and Bonith is just responding so well that he's able to close the games off of these really good defenses.
Yeah. There's not much more that can be said about that, Ozzy. Very astutely said. I mean, it's just kind of unbelievable to me. Like, no matter what you do against Bonith, it's wrong. Like, you go for these early aggressions, it's wrong. You try and play a late game, it's wrong. This is just perfect play from Bonith, and it really is like game theory 101, to anticipate what your opponent will do in response to whatever you do, and then make a decision based on the most optimal play as a result. And he always seems to navigate that fine thread so efficiently. He does like a little ballerina's dance across the tightrope and makes it look so elegant.
So elegant. True. That's a good way to describe Bonith, as elegant. The way he controls his units, the way he plays the game.
Yeah. Honestly, it's kind of inspiring on it. I'm sure a lot of you guys, especially you Protoss players at home watching now today, are feeling maybe a little bit inspired to jump on that ladder and test your luck. But I promise you, you are not able to emulate what this guy is doing right now.
So while we wait for our players, you said you have a shirt that it's got a picture of Bonith's face on it?
No, I said I had a team jersey. I used to be a captain of a team, not in StarCraft, another game, and it's the branding is wasted potential, and I thought that was a good way of summing up Bonith.
Yeah, I got you.
Honestly, like, this guy's got talent dripping off of him, but chooses just to chill, you know? I mean, fair enough. There are people out there in the world that are really genius type people, and they're happy leading a modest life and don't need to strive for true greatness. And they're just, you know, content with what they've got, and they show gratitude for the, you know, more minor things in life.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to live life. All right, looks like our players are ready, so we're gonna hop into game 3 here on Dominator of Bonith versus Hawk.
Spawning here in the top left, needs to dig deep to make a comeback. It's Hawk. It's the blue Zerg.
And his opponent spawning in the right side is the red Protoss player Bonith, up 2-0, looking to close it out with a clean 3-0 sweep.
It always makes me laugh how people try and like navigate how they describe the spawning locations on Dominator. Like top left and the middle right's not too difficult, but bottom left doesn't feel quite as natural. You don't want to say 7 o'clock, you know what I mean? So like it's kind of hard. Do you go a clock or do you go like, you know, directional? And a lot of people hedge their bets.
It just depends on my mood in the moment. I'm so back and forth. I'm the same way on BGX. There's like a clock position for each one that everybody says, and sometimes I'm top right, mid right, bottom left. Sometimes I'm 7. Like I never know what I'm gonna say, and I think that's what throws me off. Like I look at Dominator, and I'm like, I don't even know what to call this number.
No, I've noticed this trend a lot on Dominator. It throws off a lot of casters, not just you, RZ. It's definitely everyone has felt that in one time or another.
Yeah, I like calling the bottom spawn like 627 or something like that. Like it
so precise. You sure you're not? Have you got German blood in you? That's very precise.
37. Yeah. Is that a German thing to do?
Oh, Germans are very precise in their language in general. Yeah, that's why they've got a word for everything.
Gotcha.
There's going to be that gateway expand here from Bonith. Quick scout out. It used to be that you'd mineral optimize and keep this probe mining for a little bit before sending it out, but then they realized, hang on a minute, this kind of just tells my opponent that I'm gateway expanding, and this way, by sending out the probe earlier on, you can obfuscate, is this a forge, is this a gateway, and you also kind of guarantee scouting them early as well, so there's no potential of like the Zerglings blocking that probe getting in with the slightly faster pull timings if you don't scout them first. So yeah, I like this modern take on the gateway expand, like sacrificing a little bit of optimization to guarantee the harassment, the scout, and what have you.
Yeah, for sure. And we kind of see the same drone movement from Hawk as we've seen in every game, where he sends his first drone out further, so if he gets first scouted, he can just send it straight to that other spawn there to take that base.
Yeah. And a 4 Lings opening here from Hawk. It's very standard to go for 4 Zerglings if you're not drone scouting. It's like kind of the Zealot build, as in the player Zealot. You kind of compensate by not drone scouting, by making an extra pair of Zerglings, and it kind of evens out your economy as well as make you safe against that initial Zealot pressure timing. And I do love that a modern take on this game as well. Like everyone seems to be figuring out their own optimizations, and the word kind of gets out, and that way of playing trickles down to the rest of the players in the scene, and they kind of end up adopting that way of thinking too.
Yeah, Hawk gonna mix it up a little bit this time and send the Ling straight across instead of working on denying that probe. And he's gonna see the 1 Zealot here, so he knows the other Zealots on the ramp right now should be with a probe. But he's gonna try and fight this a little bit because the 4 Ling's gonna beat the Zealot. Second Zealot's gonna pop out though, and this should be able to push his way pretty easily.
This is a bit of a skill check from the Zerg to like make sure the Protoss know how to block their ramp with a probe and Zealot. And as long as you're microing the Zerglings, you shouldn't lose them no matter what happens. So it's a good way of keeping the Zealots pinned back on the Protoss side of the map. You allow perfect vision with the probe scout usually, but at the same time you keep the Zealots pinned back, which means you can make more drones, and you're kind of like forcing a skill check to make sure that they don't make a blunder that you can then punish. And it's unlikely that someone like Bonith is gonna make a blunder like that, but it does mean that the Zealots are pinned down and Hawk can drone up faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Bono's going to get this probe inside. He's going to be dancing around a little bit so he can see when that layer timing starts, so he sees that go down. So now he's kind of got confirmation this isn't some crazy Hydra build. Nothing like super aggressive really early.
Yeah. Again, with the slow Overlord just chilling out in the natural, this usually indicates a 973, although the probe was able to confirm that this isn't the case, so he won't be threatened by this Overlord. Usually the Protoss players' alarm bells will be going off in their head as soon as they see this Overlord just chilling outside their wall like this right at the start of the game. Usually indicates that they want to put on pressure with either like a very fast Hydralisk timing or something like that. But either way, like it does kind of open you up. If you're not going to go for a Hydralisk play, like in the Eclipse game, you saw the Overlord sniped by a Dragoon, right? Like Bonith could do that again here.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. A way to punish this kind of Overlord placement if they're not pressuring you with Hydra. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, actually happened last game. So Yeah, a little bit dangerous to have it sitting out here. Hawk is gonna go for a win here.
Yeah. This is kind of interesting. He's going to get the cannon as well. The Zealots are really out of position to deal with this. You get few speedlings into the main base. Probe's trying to stop additional lings getting in pretty good from Bonith, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty. He killed a lot of Zerglings, but 3 speedlings making their way into the main base. He just instantly throws down a cannon. Doesn't want to have to deal with task switching, the harassment, while also defending against the wall in. Against additional links being made, a lot more pressure coming his way. Gateway already being targeted while the links come into the natural expansion. Mineral line starting to target down probes. There's a lot of economic damage that's being dealt to Bonith right now, and he has to commit to holding this wall in against the additional Zerglings rather than protecting those probes. We've taken quite a lot of losses. Hawk already getting a pretty sizable lead in this game going forward. Good block though from Bonith, denies the run by. Good from Hawk though, targets that probe and gets the Ling run by into the main base, but with that cannon in the main base, we'll shut this down, but more and more Zerglings coming out, and there is that Dragoon.
Yeah, he's making this Dragoon to go for the Overlord here, but there's a chance of a little bit of a Ling flood catching this off guarding and actually killing these units.
I think this was a metagame from Hawk. I think he wanted him to make the Dragoon to come out to kill the Overlord so that this Ling play was even stronger.
I think that's exactly it, and you don't even want a Goon against this, right? Like, stopping Zealot production to make this Goon, that's like a Zealot and a half almost too, not just on the resources, but on the build time as well. Because the Goon DPS not going to help you a whole lot with the Ling, so yeah, I think you're 100% right. He places Overlord out here. He kind of baited him. He's like, "Hey, I saw you did this last game. Let me see you do that again." So he's trying to catch the units out there. It was really cerebral play from Hawk there.
Yeah, I mean, we used to call it the noob bait back in the day. It was usually used against Terran players, where you'd put the Overlord out in the front and be like, "Oh, come on, come and kill my Overlord with your Marines." And as soon as they moved out with the Marines to kill it, you'd dive in with your Speedlings and crush the Terran. But this time, Hawk is basically doing a more elaborate version of that in this Protoss versus Zerg matchup, and a bit of good finesse from him. Can he catch this Corsair on the interception? Almost catching it.
Oh man!
Not quite. If he had just attack moved at the right time, he would have got it. The problem with Scourge is you have to manually move them into position and then detonate them once they're on top of the Corsair. And if you don't activate the attack move command in time, it's very difficult to still get that connection.
We're also seeing something that's kind of coming to play here where Bonith doesn't know how many gases Hawk was on, and because of what he did last game, Bonith is actually making multiple cannons in his mineral line, so he's a little bit worried about something similar happening as last game. So yeah, Hawk going for that play is paying off in this game at least, where it's got Bonith being a little bit more cautious.
Right, and it's triple gas from Hawk, but he's not really mining 3 on gas on all of the geysers. So maybe he's trying to, like, throw a bit of a metagame Bonith's way. So if he did come in and check with this Corsairs, he sees 3 gas, but he wasn't mining optimally on all 3 for quite some time. So he might make it look like he's going for an Ogre's gamer move if this Corsairs were to come in and scout this, when really he might just be macroing up and doing a very orthodox transition.
Yeah, that being said, we're on 3 gas, and I haven't seen a Hydra Den yet, actually.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think there is one. Oh, there is no den. No, you're right. I thought there was maybe a den being made elsewhere. There is not. There is no den at all. So this actually might just be a full-on Ogre's gamer anyway.
Yeah, it's like no... delayed Ogre's are.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. We'll get some connections with the Scourge. That's a nice little find, especially if you're going for that kind of style with the Mutalisk and Scourge. No Overlord here to defend against this DT timing. If Hawk's not paying attention, he will lose every single Zergling. You don't get notification for 1-hit kills.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to notice that too, especially when he's doing something like this, trying to fight with these Scourge. Gonna catch one Corsair, which is nice, but he's gonna notice here in a second that he doesn't have vision in front of Bonith anymore.
That's a big problem, right? Yeah, not so ideal anymore. And he's making additional cannons now in his mineral line. The natural is exposed, so if somehow Hawk can find that weakness, might be able to exploit that and deny a lot of mining from Bonith. But DT going to be doing some scouting, and we'll see these Mutalisks as well. That's a nice find from Bonith. That DT is paying off a lot in terms of its scouting.
Yeah, really nice to get confirmation. It was already kind of suspicious. I mean, when you see this many Scourge, you do start to wonder if that's what's happening anyway. And yeah, we got the +1 armor as well. So there might be a small window, but with 3 and maybe even a 4th cannon looked like it was building. Or next could be a pylon. But yeah, he's setting up pretty well to trying to defend against this.
The only thing is the natural isn't well defended. He's optimizing for the direct path of attack from Hawk. So if Hawk just doesn't bother checking the natural, he won't even identify that. Let's get some good connection on those the Corsairs, though. There's so many cannons that he kind of has to tuck tail and run. He's scared of those cannons and Corsair timing, as well as the fact that a High Templar could be lurking, hiding at like the top of a gateway or something, and then suddenly he storms all your mutas. So I mean, this is a little bit problematic. If only Hawk had identified there's hardly any defense in the natural of Bonith, he could have maybe gone for an exploitation play.
Yeah, a little bit of a risk there from Bonith trying to kind of predict Hawk's movement, which he did predict correctly, but man, that is scary to me. We had literally 0 cannons in the mineral line and 5 in our main mineral line, so...
Ooh, preemptive storm comes down, but doesn't quite find its connection. If Hawk can somehow snipe these High Templars and abuse the fact there's not many cannons in the natural while the Corsairs are zoned out by the Scourge, definitely Hawk could take free reign over that natural expansion and get a nice little lead in this game. Unfortunately, these Zealots don't really have much to do at the moment. Usually you want to keep an active threat out on the map with them, but not really the best of ideas right now. Some preemptive storms come down, but honestly, the dodging from Hawk is pretty good. Baiting out these storms is a nice little win.
Yeah, getting them to cast these storms is already honestly pretty good value from these, because we're just going to be pumping tons of Hydra. So if we can't kill the Templar, getting them to cast the storms without hitting us really is the next best thing.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Even the probe going to be denied moving out to either potentially take a third or get some scouting information. Hawk will take his mineral only now and start to power up his own infrastructure just a little bit more. And eventually will make such a crazy amount of Hydras that maybe there's not enough splash to deal with from Bonith. Has got a Corsair fleet of 6 to try and protect these High Templars, but if any more storms are forced out of Bonith or High Templar snipes occur, it will be a bit of a nightmare situation. He's trying to dive in now with the Scourge to find some connections, but pretty good control from Bonith avoids disaster for the time being.
Yeah, but Hawk's eco is actually really strong right now. He's going to be able to pump a lot of Hydra behind us. He made so many drones behind that Mutabust attempt.
Absolutely.
He is very, very healthy right now, so it's going to come down a lot to this next fight. Can Bonith get a really good trade? I mean, he's got a decent number of storms right now, but not a whole lot. His supply is also not really high enough to crush. He kind of want to take like he wants to take a small engagement and then disengage, but Hawk is actually setting up in a way where he's not going to be able to disengage.
Yeah, he's actually going to dive in from behind with so many Hydras. Pretty good storms from Bonith trying to blanket onto those flanking units, but there's not enough remaining to utilize, and he's going to get on top of these units with the mutas and constructors. So much good storm baiting from Hawk as well. He's starting to figure out what he needs to do to get the better end of the stick in these trades against Bonith. Slowly but surely, he's going to whittle this Protoss force down to a nub, cut off the path of reinforcements and retreat, and try and shark around for some additional units to kill. Bonith might be able to join up some Zealots with this army, but no more additional anti-air will be joining that force for the time being.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't want to try to swallow that attack up, but he's actually more worried about denying the third. He is going to kill a probe down there, which is kind of annoying for Bonith, but there's only 2 Templar. I think he has like 2 storm total right now, so
yeah,
if Hawk were able to jump on this, it'd be a very, very scary moment for Bonith, but Bonith is going to be able to retreat back home and regroup his army.
Yeah, he's going to do a little bit of chase micro on these mutas, but honestly, this is working out pretty good for Hawk. He's not really committing that many forces down here. It's just like one control group or so of Hydras and his last remaining mutas. And he's just trying to see if he can bait out more storms and whittle down the utility available to Bonith for this next coming phases of the game. He's trying to get any snipes on these High Templars or force out storms that he can, so when this push timing finally does come from Bonith, he's going to have an absolute monster of an army to deal with it, and there will not be enough storms to deal with this amount of Hydras. We'll have to see just how much storms Bonith can leverage against. His Lurkers are on the way, but he's on a timing. It takes about a minute to get out and set up here, so Bonith could bowl him over with good execution.
Yeah, this is about the best timing for Bonith to come in, actually, is right when these Lurkers are starting to morph. So, yeah, big storms here on these Hydras actually going to soften a lot. Mita's going to come in after the fact, though, and jump on top of these goons and Sayer. Hydras coming in from behind. Yeah, those Lurkers all get stormed and go down without getting to hatch.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like Hawk is going to hold this, but wasn't the worst of trades for Bonith. I think the problem for Bonith is that the third base is so slow that unless he gets like a kill on this 4th base or kills more than just 2 or 3 drones, it's not really feeling that good for our Protoss player. Eventually, he will be outscaled by Hawk, who double expanded, by the way. He's taking this 5th base over in the top left as well. So, I mean, this is a monstrous macro potential from Hawk. Bonith has to get this third base underway, as well as deny Hawk from making too many drones right now. He wants to force Hawk into having to make units, which is why he was so adamant in pushing then. But it looks like Hawk going to be getting way of trading efficiently and starting to drone up.
Yeah, it's kind of... He was forcing, it's like you said, he's trying to lean on the Zerg to get him to make units, but Hawk had been able to establish his ego pretty much where he wanted it at that stage of the game anyway, so being able to pump a lot of units actually doesn't hurt him as much as it normally would at that stage. And yeah, we're going to fly in here, we're going to see the third still hasn't started, and get to deny this again, and Bonith is officially on a timer.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like, he has to do something now. He has to kill these two bases up here that have just sprouted out and kind of reset the game positions of both players. He has got, like, you know, one and a half control groups of Dragoons, which is about the minimum threshold you want to start skirmishing with the Zerg, but not nearly enough High Templars to make this efficient. And Hawk, with some good storm dodging, should be able to outmaneuver this. Okay, those storms are okay. The Zealots reinforcing from the east. Maybe there's just barely enough Protoss here to make it work. Hawk has a lot of reinforcements starting to join this up, and here come those lurkers as well. The Dragoons are, you'd think that Dragoons are good against lurkers, but as long as the lurkers are in good enough positions, the Dragoons actually will be held back by those units, and Hawk can even start to encroach on this Protoss force now and try and not only force a retreat out of Bonith, but also some bad trades.
Yeah, I mean, Bonith did about as good as he could with how few storms he had, right? But it's just not going to be enough. He's very low on eco, his production's a little bit low, and Hawk's economy, he had to get so much more damage done, right? Even just killing the army is not good enough. He had to be able to deny these bases.
Yeah, this is 5 base Zerg versus 2 base Protoss. The third base still not even yet finished for Bonith. So unfortunately, the writing is on the wall for our Polish Protoss. He's running out of chances of making this work. He still has a few percentile chance of winning this game, but it's such a Zerg favored map as well. Dominator, I'd like to put out there. Bit of a 6-4 favorite going towards Zerg at the pro level, maybe a little bit less at the amateur level. But still a big mounted decline for Bonith, and he's not been able to surmount that summit here today. Hawk really applying the pressure, leading dry the energy reserves of those High Templar units, and just getting the bare minimal cost efficiency needed to keep trading out the death ball of the Protoss. And it's not looking like a death ball, it's looking more like a softball now.
Yeah, a little bit. It's it's drying up. The reinforcements keep coming slower and slower and slower, whereas Hawk, on the other hand, is just going to be getting faster instead of slower, right? We got extra hatcheries for production, we got the extra bases mining now, so he's going to keep going his lead. He is leaning on Bonith. He wants to make sure that Bonith doesn't get to, like, a really powerful death ball, right? Because there's still always a little bit of chance when you're on layer tech. And Bonith, I mean, we see how well Bonith is trading even these small amounts of units against these Hydras. If he gets a nasty death ball, it's not impossible for him to take a good enough fight to win.
Right. Hawk just has identified that that's the one way that Bonith could have come back in this game, is by getting that scary death ball that can skirmish well. As long as you stop Protoss from getting into that position, there's not really much hopes of mounting a comeback here. And he can just keep the Protoss contained on 3 bases and out macro him to his heart's content. If he needs to, he could even go into Hive and let the Protoss get a 4th base and just start plaguing as well. The world is Hawk's oyster in this game, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. He's coming in with this massive army right now. He's going to push him back into his natural, and going to force Bonith to come up this ramp even to try and defend his own natural. There's only one cannon that was actually made here at the front too, which, now that I think about it, it's kind of crazy that we got to do that. But
well, what's funny about this matchup is usually the rally point, this natural, is the least defended location the longer the game goes on in PvZ, right? Like, it becomes the after 4, and so many times Zerg can exploit that in the mid to late game phases. And even now it's being exploited by Hawk. And like we talked about earlier, there was so much committal into the cannons into the main base to thwart that Ogre Zerg style, and Hawk just retreated and didn't really lose that many mutas to that investment. So each one of those cannons that were made was like a gateway that was never produced, and it's really slowed down Bonith in this game. And Hawk has just been stylistically wearing him down, whittling him down like a barber, just shaving off a little bit of the top each time and lining him up nicely for a bit of an equalizer game here.
Yeah, definitely nice to see Hawk have kind of a clean game here. I really like the meter pressure he did. Bonith even reacted to it pretty well, right? But Hawk just played it out really well from there. He was able to get his macro online very strong. And it was kind of this Hawk did it in a weird way, right? Usually when you see this like Ogre, Zerg, 3-gas, like heavy Muto thing, it's like pretty all-in-ish. But Hawk did this kind of late delayed version with more economy where you can actually play behind him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually kind of impressed to see this performance from Hawk. It gives me a little bit of hope that he can fight back in this series and at least take it the distance to a game 5 or what have you. But I mean, Bonith's still a very strong contender, and that is a Zerg favored map. So I need to see more from Hawk to feel confidence that he can take this all the way to decide a match. I don't think it's going to be so easy. I think he kind of got away a little bit with murder there against Bonith, but still a great equalizer and preventing Bonith just styling on him with a washout victory.
Yeah, for sure. It's really nice to see Hawk at this one, and it should boost his confidence a little bit. And I kind of mentioned it before, right? Like, I've seen Hawk take some games off of Bonith, so it's not impossible for Hawk to win the series. If you can beat somebody every now and then, you can line it up to win a couple of games if you're on point and stuff, and the confidence is a very important thing. So maybe morale going to get behind Hawk a little bit, and maybe he can keep it going.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Oh, we've got Pullstar coming up next. That's an interesting map, actually. I think it's one of the more interesting additions we've had to the map pools as of late. And honestly, one of the most balanced maps in PvZ. Like, there's not many maps that are like a dead 50% going either way, and Pullstar is one of those maps. There's a lot of things you can abuse on it. For example, that natural third, despite being so close to your main base and easy to take, it's actually so close that there's this tiny little ridge that you can even like put a lurker there. You load up a lurker into an overlord and drop it over the edge of that third base and still hit the probes from inside the main base of the Protoss and those kinds of tricks. It's actually quite hard to set up your lurker lines when defending your third, because you kind of have to put them out in front, exposed in the center to do so. So there's a little bit of give and take here from both sides, but overall a very strong, powerful macro map. We might be seeing a very long game here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very possible, and like I said, I think Bonith's late game is super scary, but our players are ready. We're going to jump into this game on Pullstar.
Spawning in the bottom left. Currently 2-1 up in this series. It's Bonith, the Polish Protoss.
Spawning here in the top left, taking a game back, maybe the beginning of his reverse sweep. We have Hawk.
What's your predictions, Ozzy the Hockey? Are we going to be seeing a 3-1 knockout? Are we going to game number 5?
My prediction, if money was on the line, I'm going with Bonith.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to Hawk. I'd love to see Hawk continue going. I don't even know who I want to win the series overall. I like both of these guys a lot. I hang out with them a fair amount. They're both just super nice guys. So I just want good StarCraft from two guys that I like a lot.
I feel that way a lot of the time when I'm casting RZ. Even though I do have players that I like slightly more than others, overall I just want to see some good StarCraft. And I have to say, I think this map plays a little bit into the style of Hawk a bit. I think he will make good use of this macro map. The only thing I can see being a problem is that Reaver control from Bonith, kind of like, being leveraged against him and making it a little bit problematic to work on his usual lurker lines to do the heavy lifting in that mid to late game transition. But honestly, I think this is one of the better maps for Hawk.
Yeah, it can be pretty good. If you can get to those high grounds and get things there, like even the bases outside of the natural or high ground, so it's pretty easily defendable as well with the lurkers.
Right. And I think this is a very easy setup to, get a 4 base versus 3 base situation and just try and deny the Protoss ever getting that 4th base. And if you can work that center high ground to low ground transitions well as Zerg, it can be a little bit tough for Protoss to get that 4th base on the way.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, we're actually gonna get our natural. So a little bit of a mind game there, because he's been doing it every time he got scouted first, where he just sent the drone straight across. And Bonith, I think, Bonith, even though he saw the Overlord, he just assumed he was gonna go do it again anyway. And this time, Hawk actually doubled back and gets the hatchery done. So a little bit of a mind game. I like that.
Yeah, you got to mix it up a little bit, especially in a series, right? You don't want to be metagame too much, and eventually you want to also punish your opponent's assumptions and keep them guessing rather than just like going through the motions every single game.
Yeah, absolutely. I will be right back in 1 minute. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to solo cast for just a second.
Unbelievable, Ozzy. Unacceptable behavior. I'm not joking, it's totally fine. So pretty normal stuff here from both players. Gateway expand, probably a 3-base spy here from Hawk. You can go for 973 of these positions as vertical spawns, but you don't usually go for 973 against Gateway expand unless you dominate the Zealots with the Lings early on. We haven't yet seen anything to indicate confidence in going for a 973. So if Bonith just sits back with his Zealots for a little bit of time and doesn't give an opportunity for Hawk to surround one of those, usually you're hesitant to pull the trigger on a 973 unless you do, catch one of those Zealots for free with your Zerglings. And I mean, honestly, this is a pretty late gas timing for Hawk. Like, I don't think he can afford to go speed and lair here. So maybe Bonith will feel super confident and just keep the pressure on with these Zealots now that he's identified that maybe there can't be a speed and lair to worry about. We'll have to see, does Hawk... Yeah, Hawk just makes the lair. There's no speed on the way, so these Zealots can do a lot of damage, or at least pressure to Hawk right now. He has to make so many Zerglings to deal with this, and he has not much chance of surrounding these Zealots easily without the Zergling speed. He can even just contain on the ramp with these Zealots if he wanted to, while additional Zealots arrive. It seems like he's committed to just getting into the mineral line with these first 3 Zealots and trying to get a drone kill. Doesn't quite find it yet. Now we'll be relegated to tucking behind the mineral line and forcing these Lings to be pinned down. Luckily, he's got an Overlord Scout at the natural, though, so he's not really worried about like a run by a Zealot into his 3rd or something while this is occurring. So all things considered, even though this is a bit annoying, you've got these 3 Zealots behind the mineral line, not also the worst case of scenarios. Still,
yeah, see,
well, there you go.
The Zealots tucked behind the minerals there. That's always a pain to deal with for sure. It's great for scouting information, as well as the Zerg has to like kind of pay attention to it, because anytime you're looking away, there's always a chance of these Zealots sneaking out and poking at drones.
Yeah. I was just explaining that it's not the worst scenario purely because the Overlord Scout did confirm there was no additional Zealots moving out for run-bys at the 3rd or what have you, so it's a little bit annoying, but also not the worst case scenario here.
Yeah, as long as he just keeps an eye on them, they're staying contained here, and like you said, there's no additional Zealots coming out to make the situation like really difficult, then he just waits for the Hydras and they put a timer on it.
Yeah.
So as it stands right now, it's actually completely fine for Hawk.
Yeah, I think so. I think when all's said and done, the pressure is actually on Bonith to try and find some damage with those Zealots, because the Hydras, like you say, will come out and slowly whittle away at those, and Hawk will have a 1 or 2 Hydras to try and protect his Overlords from these Corsairs. You can see he's running that scouting Overlord all the way back to his natural, so these Hydras can protect it. He's kind of going for a spireless play here.
Yeah, is that a spire that he just dropped there?
I think so. Yeah, he just delayed it for so long.
Yeah, so he's actually going to show... I don't know if the Zealots... Okay, they're going to get up there and see it now. I'm not sure if they were completely in view of it, but they're going to see it now anyways, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. But yeah, Bonith's going to see these fire building, but these Zealots are going to get cleaned up. And this is pretty efficient for Hawk. He can drone lots behind this.
Yeah, I mean, he might kill 1 Overlord just barely. Depends. Yeah, those are drones hatching out, so the Overlord should go down. It'll be a little bit tough for this Hydra to save it, unless those are Hydras popping out from the eggs to put more DPS onto it. He actually doesn't want to take... I'm surprised by that. Surely he's going to try and kill that Overlord, right? Surely he should kill that Overlord.
Interesting choice. So we go for the Healthcare Overlord. Now more Hydras are going to pop out.
I'm a little bit confused by that, because the Overlord was on like 40 HP. Like, that one Hydra cannot stop that Corsair killing that Overlord.
Yeah, interesting decision from Bonith. We're going to come back in, and I guess we're going to poke it down anyway, so it's all completely fun.
Bonith just knows the game better than us, and he says, hang on, I kill it later, guys, okay? I put more damage on these Overlords first. I'm just min-maxing, all right? I don't just want 90% of the burrito. I want the whole enchilada.
Well, you know what he did? This is actually genius. He got it really low, and then started shooting over other Overlords, and he didn't go back to the weak one until the other ones were clumped, so he was getting the splash damage. So this is
He's literally getting more damage done overall. This guy is on a different level. For a second, I was like, this is ridiculous. You're just not killing the Overlord. But it actually does pay off in a big way for him. I mean, what a god gamer.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like he just knew there was only going to be like 2 or 3 Hydras as well made, right? Like he knew that with the Spire timing, it was very unlikely that he'd make more than a few safety Hydras, and he'd be relying predominantly on Scourge coming out to do the next stage. Mutalisks have been made, though, to start to do a bit of a cleanup on aisle 5 against these Zealots and put a bit of a clock on them. Leg enhancements have kicked in, so they can get away from the Mutalisks, but not before getting a lot of their shields shaved off.
Yeah, gonna split them off here and just kind of run them around, keep them from taking too much damage. And we actually tucked a few zealots on the right side that it looks like we're gonna go towards 12 o'clock. And there's nothing here at the moment to defend, so it's gonna be a bit of a disruption for Hawk.
Yeah, there's no sunken or anything. He kind of just have to either do perfect drone drills or just evacuate completely. He's going to just attempt to get these drones out of there. Does lose one of them. Now he's going to try and drone drill with help of those Zerglings to get the surround on those cells. Pretty good drone drilling from Hawk. He does know how to drone drill properly. You know, only do you want to align the drones to get over top of those Zealots, but you want to make sure they're facing the right way when you're doing the execution of that attack move, and he knows how to keep realigning his drones during the drill process, so does manage to get some pretty efficient trades against that. And oh, look at this, catching the Dark Templar from getting in there as well. I mean, so far so good for Hawk.
Yeah, so far so good. We get an Archon behind us as well, which is kind of surprising because he knew the Hydra's behind us. I guess he's really worried about another Mutaswell, right?
Yeah.
Because he is on that. He has the 3 geysers, but he's not mining from the 3rd gas right now. So I wonder if that 3rd gas that he saw is throwing him off a little bit.
You know, a lot of Zergs do that. They'll take all 3 gases, but not mine 3 on gas. You know what I mean? It really does throw a wrench into the planning of the Protoss. Like, is he mining on all 3 and going mutas, or is he not? And you can't really tell unless you identify 3 drones on gas at all 3 locations. Does find a 1 Scourge connection onto those sets. It's a pretty big push timing from Bonith. There's no Sunkens to really buffer against us in the natural. He probably will just rotate around to the 3rd, which also there's still no Sunkens up here. Can utilize the Sim City to fight against this. This is potentially a very strong attack from Bonith. He needs to target this Archon down as well. That splash damage from the Sonic Shockwave can rip through that drone line. DT as well, the Warblade cutting through those drones. There's a lot of Sim City to work with. Bonith still finding some damage though.
Yeah, I think overall the trade's going pretty well for Bonith. This DT is actually cleaning up all these drones as well during this, right? So, and he clears a bunch of these Overlords. And Bonith gonna take a decent supply lead. This is a pretty good clear. I mean, he cleared the drone line here, got a really good trade. There is a 4th base building for Hawk behind this at least, but now we're gonna get our Templar count up. We got our Robo on the way for the potential lurkers. And overall, I'd say pretty good for Bonith, right?
Right. No, absolutely. That trades definitely were going Bonith's way. I mean, I thought the Archon was going to be the main factor, but actually the Warblade of the Dark Templar just ripping through so many drones and finding major compensation for that commitment to that attack. And Bonith could even either take a 3rd base and just power up, or he could go for another 2 base timing and stop the 4th base attempt from Hawk as well. Both plays are viable.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hawk kind of greeted the no sunken thing, right? It's because he went for this muta, and it almost worked. Like, I actually kind of see the thought process here that we went for this kind of fake muta play, and Bonith did respond, so his unit count and composition is not going to be quite right for the Hydra, but the timing hit basically, what, 10 seconds sooner than Hawk would have liked before he had enough Hydras to easily crush it.
Yeah. I mean, we see that a lot from very high-level Protoss players. They treat it almost like Terran versus Zerg and understand that the best way to kill Zerg is with these razor-thin timing windows right before they're fully set up, and it's such a nightmare for Zerg. It's the biggest weakness of Zerg is when you're caught in these little tiny transitional points where you quite haven't got your Sunken set up or your Lurkers morphed, and suddenly what would have been a very strong macro game for you turns into an abysmal one as you get caught off guard in these little tiny windows of opportunity that can be exploited.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a big indication of like really high level players, like you're saying. And yeah, Bonith gonna have taken advantage of that, get a pretty good trade, and now his army composition is looking really scary. There's a lot of storm here.
He does catch some of the Corsairs. Well, we have almost like 2 solid control groups worth of Dragoons. He has killed all these Corsairs, but as long as he positions these Dragoons well and has good preemptive storms, still in a favorable position is Bonith. Hawk, though,
War Muto.
has a window of opportunity to potentially snipe these High Templars, but he's not going to find it. Bonith is just ramming it down right now. There is not much opportunity to get on top of these High Templars and snipe these High Templars before they can get their storms off. And kind of, oh, that's a nice preemptive storm, softening up all of those Mutas, about a third or so of their HP, and now laying siege to the Zerg. The Dragoons acting as siege tanks, laying down a lot of phase disruption shots onto those hatcheries at the front line, as well as that Hydra Den. Good storms on those Mutas again while that was occurring. Does snipe one of these High Templars, but because of those good preemptive storms, they were so softened up, even the Dragoons made short work of them. Currently, Hawk trying to wrap around from behind. Some good blankets of storms laid in the wake of those Hydras, though. This is such a cost-efficient trade from Bonith. Hawk has to tap out. GG is caught, and Bonith, unsurprisingly, stomping through this winner's bracket.
Yeah, it was a bit of an unfortunate moment there for Hawk. I really liked what we were going for. He finally went for this big Muta swap. He cleared all the Corsair, but he just lost track of the army temporarily and got into a really bad position where he wasn't able to snipe any of the Templar. And yeah, it just ended up crushing through. Bonith's going to take that 3-1 over Hawk. Nice to see Hawk make it, a little bit competitive. He did beat him pretty well on Dominator, but yeah, Bonith's just such a strong player.
I think most of these games come down to just slightly better trading from Bonith, and you see that represented in StarCraft rankings, even on the ladder. Like a B rank player, he knows what builds to do but can't execute them cleanly. An A rank player, he knows what builds to do and executes them cleanly. But the S rank players, they start to not bleed units and trade more and more efficiently. And the higher up the rankings you go, and in terms of your caliber of play, the more you understand that it's all about game trading and how you're actually engaging with your units and getting the highest rating of efficiency in those situations. And Bonith, one of the best in the business in the foreigner scene at achieving that.
Yeah, he really is. He's just so good at squeezing value out of so many situations and responding to situations so well. So Bonith's going to take that win, going to knock Hawk down to the loser bracket finals. So he's going to have to wait a little bit for his opponents to go through each other. But it's not impossible that we see more Hawk in the finals.
Yeah, absolutely. We certainly could be seeing him drop down and carrying on his trend. He's got one guy to face off against, and he might be getting a bit of a revenge potential against Bonith. He's gonna have to dig deep and do a lot of Zerg versus Protoss practice to figure out and iron out the weaknesses and the creases in his play to take on someone like Bonith if he does make it through to that grand final stage against him. We've had such a great series of games today, RZ, and we've got Ultra versus Zeke, DeWalt versus Medinho in that loser bracket, round 4 coming up in the next day of BSL. What a great couple of sets to watch.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Medinho DeWalt. I know DeWalt's like clearly the favorite here, of course, right? But I don't know. I've become a believer in Medinho. Like, I love the attitude. I love the gameplay. In a dream world, we're going to see Medinho take out DeWalt. That's what I personally want to see.
Now, usually, though, DeWalt, so good with that gateway man style in PvT. Yeah. He has a hard time against the pro gamers because they've kind of figured out his timings and figured out the way he navigates that, and he does at the highest of levels of play struggle to execute it. But at the foreigner level of play, DeWalt is an absolute god in that Protoss versus Terran gateway man style, and his use of storm shuttles and just overall fundamentals and how to engage Terrans on the ground. I mean, that could be a absolute fireworks of a series between those two. Also, Ultra versus Zeke, that could definitely be a spicy one as well. Zeke's so good with his Mutalist control, and Ultra has shown some good performances in Terran versus Zerg. I'm not sure if he's quite holding a candle to Zeke. I have a feeling like this will be going Zeke's way, but I would still like to see what occurs in that series.
I mean, after Ultra took out Crossy, right? It's possible that he can take out any Zerg. So yeah, it could be interesting. It's definitely possible that Ultra steps up and gives Zeke a run for his money.
I would say so. I would say it's definitely could go either way. My money still would be on Zeke, but I do feel like Ultra has performed okay in this tournament in that matchup, especially like you say against Crossy. So anything could happen. I think both of those sets are going to be super interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And real quick, I wanted to say about DeWalt Medino. So what you're saying about DeWalt being so good at his like gateway man shuttle style, I agree 100%. And that's one of the reasons I'm excited about it, because we saw when DeWalt played against Kara that when the games are weird, sometimes he has a bit of a hard time with it, and we know Medino likes to be weird.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I think this is going to be really interesting because you've got a very strong fundamental Protoss against an absolute mad lad, and that definitely could make for some craziness. And DeWalt will be pushed to the limits to try and stay on track and not be pulled into the jungle in a 4x4 jeep and having some rocky terrain to navigate. Either way, I think it's going to be crazy no matter what happens. And obviously, guys, tomorrow you will be then seeing the semifinals between the winners of those two sets as well. So it'll be either Ultra Ziki versus either DeWalt or Medino, who will then face off against Hawk in the loser bracket finals eventually. And now just a quick shout out to our Patreon supporters as well as Team Liquid, Nazgo and Steve. Always so appreciative of these guys supporting us here at the Bombastic StarLeague and keeping the lights on. You can see at the bottom of the page now, we need your help to make BSL 21 a reality with that prize pool. We already had some major big donations today. Dragon with the €200 CRBT, with that big 2,000, 2K, crazy shit. Chelsea with the 20s, or any little helps. So if you can chuck a few bucks our way, please do so, guys. And now if we take a little quick moment to shout out our regular supporters in the Patreon. Bombastic Wolf of Wall Street at $200. That's Andrew. Big shout out to you, my guy. Bombastic General, $100. My Fleeting Dream. Bombastic Colonel, $50. Striker. Bombastic Majors, $30. to Apocalypse. And last but not least, the Bombastic Majors at $20. Scheming Gypsy, Chaozu, Medino, Steven Robertson's, KJ, Daniel Lopez, LML, and Nicholas Schuler. Thank you so much to all of you guys for loving this great gaming scene as much as we do. Any last words, Ozzy?
Not really much for me. I mean, the results relatively what I expected.
Yeah.
Well, I say that, but Medino definitely surprised me. So I'm really, really happy with Medino. But otherwise, yeah.
I expected to be surprised by Medino. So does that mean you're still surprised if you expected to be surprised or not? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Pretty much exactly how I feel. It's like I don't know. I'm getting to where it's hard for me to count Medino out. He's definitely making me a fan for sure. But
I mean,
yeah,
it's
really
almost
good game today.
Yeah, it's almost like now that he's saying that he's going to retire and he doesn't care anymore, it's almost like that's giving him some new power, like it's almost like by not caring and having an attachment, it allows him to play at new heights. And yeah, really just craziness from him. Like the drunken boxing style continues to amaze and could go all the way. He seems to think that he's going to be potentially winning this BSL season, and maybe he's not far wrong. I would love to see him be crowned champion, especially if he is going to be retiring. That'd be kind of spectacular, when you say.
That would be pretty awesome to finish out on top like that. And what you say is very true. Like whenever you talk about quitting or whatever, like that kind of thing, you kind of relieve a lot of that pressure. You start playing well. I'm reminded again of Wolfix recently when he was in BSL. He was talking about how much he dreaded playing. He didn't want to play because he had tournament matches and this kind of thing. And as soon as he lost, he was like, "Man, I can't wait to get on and play StarCraft." And then he played every day for like several days. It's like, I get it. A lot of people have this problem.
Yeah, no. I think that's a problem with life. We talked about how StarCraft's so much similar to life in parallel, and having an attachment to things. Usually, it's kind of like how magnets work. It makes you, repel things rather than attract things. And as soon as you stop caring too much, suddenly everything kind of just goes your way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I've been John. With me, Ozzy Dahaki. Any final words for the viewers at home, Mr. Dahaki?
Not really, man. Just appreciate your support and everything, guys. Like all the donations, all the support, watching the stream even is really big. Like keeping this foreign StarCraft alive. I mean, yeah. I know a lot of us, we're old, we've been around for a long time, but we love this game, and you guys are what keeps it going. So really appreciate all of you.
Absolutely, and we will continue to love this game for many years to come. We could be sitting here in the caster's booth even in a decade from now, Ozzy. It's certainly possible. I would love to see it. Let's keep this scene going, live and thriving. I've been John. With me, Ozzy Dahaki, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Take care, guys. Have a great one.
Yeah, take care.